At dawn in 1565, the island of Malta stood surrounded, as fewer than 8,000 defenders faced an Ottoman army exceeding 40,000. By the end of summer, the invasion had failed, and one of the most powerful armies on earth was forced to withdraw. This is Blackstone Battlecraft, where real history is examined through strategy, leadership, and decisive battles. In the 16th century, the Mediterranean became the primary arena of imperial competition between rising European powers and the Ottoman Empire. Control of its sea routes determined access to trade, taxation, and the rapid movement of armies and fleets. Any empire that dominated these waters could project power across Europe, North Africa, and the Eastern Mediterranean, shaping influence far beyond the coastline itself. Malta's position placed it directly along the naval corridor used by Ottoman fleets traveling westward. Any force moving between Constantinople and Spain passed within striking distance of the island. As a result, Malta was not merely a defensive outpost, but a strategic obstacle capable of disrupting entire campaigns. Malta's deep harbors and rising stone fortifications transformed the island into a permanent challenge for Ottoman expansion. As long as the Knights Hospitaller remained, Ottoman control of the western Mediterranean remained incomplete. The island's defenses were not symbolic. They were engineered to absorb prolonged siege warfare. The defense of Malta was led by Jean Parisot de Valette, Grand Master of the Knights Hospitaller. A veteran of earlier Ottoman campaigns, de Valette understood both the enemy's strengths and their methods. His leadership would prove decisive, not through spectacle, but through discipline, preparation, and resolve. Fewer than 8,000 defenders stood ready on Malta's walls. They included knights, Spanish soldiers, and Maltese militia. Each understood the reality clearly. Surrender meant exile and destruction of their order, while resistance meant survival measured day by day. In the spring of 1565, an immense Ottoman fleet appeared off Malta's shores. Its scale reflected years of preparation and imperial commitment. The Ottomans did not arrive expecting prolonged resistance. They arrived expecting Malta to fall quickly under overwhelming force. Sent by Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, the invasion force carried heavy siege artillery. These cannons were designed to reduce even the strongest fortresses through sustained bombardment. Once established on shore, the Ottomans began systematic preparations for siege operations. The siege began with Fort St. Elmo. For more than a month, its garrison absorbed constant bombardment and repeated assaults. Though eventually destroyed, the fort achieved its purpose by delaying the Ottoman advance and inflicting losses far greater than expected. Malta's defenses forced attackers into narrow corridors, where numbers offered little advantage. Walls, angles, and overlapping fields of fire slowed every assault. Each defensive layer was designed to exhaust attackers before they could achieve a breakthrough. De Valette coordinated the defense personally, directing counterattacks and reinforcing weak points. Leadership remained centralized and disciplined throughout the siege. This consistency prevented panic and ensured that every breach was met with immediate resistance. Repeated Ottoman assaults collapsed under heavy losses. Each failure consumed manpower, morale, and time. Despite numerical superiority, the attackers could not overcome fortifications designed to neutralize advantage through controlled attrition. As the siege dragged on, disease and exhaustion spread through the Ottoman camps. Heat, limited supplies, and rising casualties steadily weakened the invading force. Momentum slowed as the cost of continued assault increased with each passing week. Inside the city, Maltese civilians continued supporting the defense. Food, water, and ammunition were moved under constant threat of bombardment. Their participation sustained resistance and prevented collapse despite worsening conditions. In September 1565, Spanish relief arrived, and facing mounting losses, the Ottoman army withdrew from Malta. The Great Siege of Malta shattered the perception of Ottoman invincibility in the Western Mediterranean. It preserved Malta as a European stronghold and halted further expansion in the region. In the aftermath, the fortified city of Valette was constructed, ensuring the island would never again face invasion unprepared. The siege became a lasting example of how preparation, leadership, and terrain could overcome overwhelming force. If you enjoy in-depth history like this, consider subscribing to Blackstone Battlecraft.